What's scaring me about that is a lot of you are laughing at that already. When I show it to people that are my age or a little bit younger, because I'm really old, you know, they laugh a lot. But you guys are on the, I'm going to still this for a minute.
Watch out, there's a mic on it.
Okay, I'm going to put it off there. You guys are on the front end of this, and we're kind of in the middle of it or whatever, but I appreciate John and Mandy and their family. You've got a real blessing there. I think a lot of you already know it. John's kind of introduced me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I am like the Dr. Phil. I'm a relationship expert. No, not really. I'm just a man that lives down by the river, and I'm a motivational speaker. So anyway, let me tell you a little bit about myself. John's familiarized me with your I series, and tonight's about relationships. And you can't get anywhere in life. It's all about relationships. Relationships are messy. It is easier to live by yourself in a cabin somewhere, on an island, with an obedient pet or something like that, than to deal with relationships. Your whole life is going to be relationships. And I'm going to be coming from tonight. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, and my life has been blessed by the principles that God lays out in His Bible for relationships. And most society uses those principles whether they believe in Christ or not. So I'm telling you where I'm coming from. Personally, I grew up around Rogersville, Missouri, a little ways from here. I've been out of the state for about 13 years. Spent 14 years in youth ministry. God called me into the pastorate about 4 years ago. And so I know you're not all youth, but some of you could have been my youth at that age. And I think at least I'm young at heart. But to tell you about my wife, she's my best friend. And I'm just saying that to say that. And marriage does keep getting better and better. We're doing a series at our church based on this movie. This movie is going to be at the Joplin Theaters. It comes out September 26th. I encourage you to go see it. I've got to preview it. My kids have got to preview it. Our youth minister and his wife got to preview it. It is really good. And you may say it's for old married people, but someday, 90%, they say 90% of people will be married at one time or another. That means in this crowd, only 10% of you may choose never to be married. So these are principles that you're already dealing with. And so that's a little bit about me. My wife and I have been married 18 years. We have known each other, not in the biblical sense, for all those 18 years, for 23 years. We dated for 5, and then we've been married 18. Our story's a little bit different. We met the senior year of high school. We knew who each other were, and we started dating, and it makes it a lot simpler. We graduated together. You don't have to go to 2 different reunions. You know the same stories. You have most of the same best friends. It makes it a lot simpler, but we didn't plan it that way. But we have known each other for 23 years. And that's not everybody's story, but I'm telling you mainly from my personal heart. That I love the symbol that you have here on your new symbol. I can see it at the back, and it's on the shirts, and talking about the I series that you're doing. And like I said, tonight is about relationships. And so while I'm not an expert, I can go from my story and from what Christ has told me and the principles that I try to live by. But a lot of you thought that was funny. A lot of you probably are not married tonight or haven't been married for any series of time, but you think that's funny because either you've dealt with it in some form of relationship or you've seen your parents deal with it somehow. And while it's funny, most of it is really true. God has an awesome sense of humor, and He's made men and women so different. Okay? And, you know, men can be like microwave ovens, and women are toaster ovens when it comes to how God has created our emotions and in the areas of sex and all those kind of things. And God has created differences, and I think the beauty that He has created differences is that we will give to the other person 100%, and they will give to us 100%, and that is true love is giving. Something that is totally out of your making, you're giving to someone else, and only through the power of the Holy Spirit we can do that. So, if I had one question tonight is, what is the key to relationships? Everybody's talking about relationships. You watch E! Channel or whatever, you see the latest star, their relationship that's breaking up, and then we applaud them that they've been together for 3 years, and that's awesome for in Hollywood, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And my brother-in-law was shopping for his engagement ring, and my wife and I went with him, and at that time my wife and I had been married 7 years. And we went with him to the jeweler, and he'd asked how long we were married, and we said 7 years, and the jeweler was saying, man, that's a long You know, that scares me. That this guy is the one that sees everybody that's getting married. And he says that 7 years is a long time. Previously in our church, we had people, I would start at 5, and we went all the way up to 70. And I said, if you've been married that long, raise your hand. And there were some people that have been married 70 years. Those are the people you want to talk to. Those are the people you want to talk to. But is it all about man and woman relationships? Where does it start? 12, verse 30. And if you don't know that, and we're also going to go to Luke, but the key to relationships can be summarized in Jesus. This is why I wore this shirt tonight. I wore this shirt tonight that said Christianity is not a religion, and it's not. And the back says it's a relationship. And I love knocking people out of their comfort zones. I have this one shirt, it's black, and it says sinner. And my mom, I love her to death, great Christian lady, she goes, I like that shirt. But Mom, I am a sinner. And if you notice the verse underneath it, it says, Paul's saying, I was the chief of sinners. I'm saved by God's grace. And I'm not about a religion, I'm about a relationship. And so we see here that Jesus has all these people that are these religious people that had no telling how many different laws, that if you were to pass gas, there was a law for that, or this or that. And they kept building law upon law upon law upon law. And they didn't like Jesus. Because Jesus was about relationships. See, in our society, nobody minds talking about Jesus. They don't want to talk about religion. Jesus is an okay guy. Now, we got to go by who Jesus said he is, not who we think he is. And guess what? The words in red are his words. And so we can pretty well tell what Jesus said. And so Jesus is going through a standard thing here where they're trying to trip him up. The religious people are trying, they don't like what he's doing because he's radical, he's cutting every corner, he's not doing all the laws that they've set up that are of man, and they want to trip him up. And they're asking him questions. And this is funny to me. If you look into this part of Scripture, it's an honest lawyer. That's an oxymoron, like jumbo shrimp, military intelligence, all those kind of things, you know? But here we have an honest lawyer that he is listening to these religious leaders trying to trip Jesus up, which is funny in itself. You're trying to trip God up. They don't realize it. And he asks an honest question here that we see in, I believe it's right before verse 30. Chapter 12, Mark 12, chapter 12. And he started at 28. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked them, of what commandments, which is the most important? So he's watching them debate. He's watching these religious people. They really don't want to know. Their aim is not to know God. Their aim is not to be a friend of Jesus. They want him out of there. They want their control. They want their religion. And this honest lawyer, the teacher, this honest lawyer says, which one of these is the most important? We got 600 and some of these, topped on top of the 10 Commandments. Which one's the most important? 29. The most important one, answered Jesus, is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. That's important in itself. Jesus, if you want to understand the Bible Jesus is quoting, you need to read Deuteronomy. He quotes a lot of Deuteronomy. He quotes a lot of the Psalms. He quotes the prophets. And he's quoting Deuteronomy, the Shema there. And he's quoting that. He's saying, first of all, and this is Jesus saying that there's just one God. Not you Romans at this time that had the pantheon, that had the many gods, that had the God for us, and even the unknown God. He's saying there's just one God. And he's saying in this one statement, Jesus says so much in these statements. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God. The Lord is one. Our God. He's a personal God. One God, a personal God. The question is, what's the answer to relationships? It starts with God. Knowing the one true God. And Jesus, guess what? It's in red in mine. So it's Jesus saying, it's not me. John 14:6. Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me. If you're just listening to Jesus, that's his words, not mine. And Jesus is saying here, he's saying, one God, a personal God, and a God that we need to focus on totally. Focus every area. See, talking about the I series of relationships, if we don't get this relationship right, we don't get any of the other ones right. We topple it, and we go to all these marriage things, or we read the magazine, 17 or whatever, and that's beyond you all, or all these things, and how to do this, and how to do that, and all this kind of stuff. But we get it all wrong. If we get this relationship that we were created for in the garden, if we get that wrong, each of us here has a God-shaped hole that only He can fill, a relationship with Jesus Christ. And when we get that right, we can start working on the other relationships. And so that's why Jesus is starting here. One God, a personal God, a God that needs to have all of our focus. Verse 30, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The first part of the Ten Commandments, He is summarizing them here, is we start with God. It has to start with God. And it starts with the heart, which is it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart. The heart is the seat. It is the central thing of where everything is. With all your heart, with all your soul, your essence, who you are, with all your mind, with all your intellect, your thinking, controlling, loving God and all those things. And with all your strength, that's your passion, giving it all. That's how we start. With that relationship. But yet, we try to, and believe me, there's people that are married out there. There's people that aren't, that are in relationships, and they're giving all they got. They don't got it right with God, and they're just kind of spitting it away. It may last for a while. They may appease that person and may try to do these things. But what I have found, and this is the awesomeness of God, He never tells us to do anything that's not for our own good. He has reasons why He wants us to do things the way He does, because it's for our own good. And if all truth is God's truth, everything He tells us to do has a reason behind it. And it's for our own good. So we have to start with that relationship of loving God. And then He goes on to here. And you know, sometimes we can be good at that. We can say, okay, I can love God. God's easy to love because He loves me, and He loved me first. When I'm trashing and all these kind of things, He has loved me, and He has saved me. God's easy to love. Jesus is easy to love. And I would like to go home tonight right here and say, okay, I can love God, and let's skip the second part. You know why? Because relationships are hard. Relationships with other people are messy. Because people don't always do what you want to do, and God won't do what you want Him to do, but I mean, at least, you know, you can have that knowledge, and you can have that communion with Him, and if nobody else bothers you, you're probably okay. Oh, that Jesus, He had to throw this in there. Look what He did. That sneaky Jesus. Here. Neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. Love your neighbor as yourself. And that's not the narcissistic kind of love where you're just stuck on yourself, the egotistical kind of love that you're stuck on yourself. But how, and we see this, and some of you have heard of the golden compass. Well, I'm talking about the golden rule. Some of you have heard that. A simple, practical statement that regardless of people's beliefs, we try to practice. A lot of laws try to practice. And even in the goofy kind of humanistic things they try to do in schools and stuff, they're trying to practice it, is treat others the way you want to be treated. Luke 6:31. I have 3 boys. I constantly have to get this through their brain. I'm constantly quoting Luke 6:31. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Well, that means that Jimmy wants to be punched. Well, no, he doesn't. I don't want to be punched, so maybe Jimmy doesn't want to be punched. Okay? But treat others the way you want to be treated. That's Luke 6:31. And he says it here. The second is this. Love your neighbor as yourself. No commandment greater than these. I like what Jesus does here. He summarizes the 10 commandments in 2. He's saying, which is the most important? What is the key to relationships? Love God, and that's the cycle there. Love others and then serve. That's the key to relationship. It starts with your relationship with God. Now I'm going to pause on the loving others. A lot of you are in that romantic enchantment high time. Doesn't mean you're all in relationships in one way or another. And guys, I did youth ministry for 14 years, and it hadn't been that long ago. And I know a lot of the phrases, I've got to learn some new ones, but friends with benefits and all that kind of stuff, okay? All those redefining things out there. And we did a college retreat. You can talk to someone who was a couple years ago, and we got pretty specific. And I've had several talks, and I'm not going to get really specific, but guys, let's go back to God's original design. We can go to Genesis, and he talks about the one flesh relationship. All right? And he talks about literally your body. God is practical. His truth is practical. And whether you believe it or not, you can agree with this truth. Physically, your body is only made for one person. Now, you can give your body away to other people. But do you realize sexually transmitted diseases since World War II have doubled or quadrupled? And ladies, hate to put it this way, us guys can shrug it off for a long time. And we may have a little physical discomfort, and we may not see those things, but you're the ones that are going to pay for it way more. Because you're going to enter into an invisible disease that won't hit you till it's time for you to have children 10 or 15 years later. And I have personally experienced this in my family of people that had stars in their eyes. They told the other person, look, I have this disease, and the girl's not thinking about it. And God can forgive, and relationships can enter in marriage. You've got to be careful on those things. I totally believe in God's grace. But 7 years later, that was one of the key things that broke up that marriage. We get stars in our eyes. We say, well, God's over here. But the truth is, you cannot deny this, that your body is only designed really for one other person. I thank God, I'm not saying this braggingly. My wife and I have been married 18 years. We dated 5. She's the only woman I've ever known. That's pretty safe for me. That's pretty safe for her. That's God's design. Not saying that braggingly, I'm saying that's God's truth. Relationships are designed on loving others. You've got to ask the question, guys. I'm talking to the men. If I do these things that my desires are leading to with this person I'm with right now, and we don't end up being married, what kind of woman do I want to marry? The guys would say, I want to marry a woman that hasn't slept around. I want to marry a woman that probably doesn't have any diseases. Okay, well, you know the person you're dating, they'll probably marry someone if 90% are going to marry someday. And that guy that they're going to marry probably wants the same thing you want. And so you need to be thinking about that guy, first of all, that might marry this person you're dating right now if you're not going to. You need to treat them how you'd want to be treated. But there's also the fact of treating that lady in the sense of, I said this and I got a lot of laughs Sunday, and I thought, boy, that's pretty sad. But you know what? We made the mistake in talking about relationships and how we treat others, is that we think we should be dating. No, dating's for marriage. My dates aren't that exciting. Friday are our date days because all the kids are somewhere. Okay? And so our big deal is to go to Sam's and eat the free food, or whatever. Okay? But it's just that quiet. Okay? And he said, you're weird, okay? You just wait. Okay? You just wait. Okay? But you've got to realize dating is for marriage. Right now, what you're dealing with is courtship. Getting to know somebody. And you realize there's about 9 levels of intimacy, and you probably, before you're married, should only stop at number 4. But nobody tells you this stuff. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Girls and guys here tonight, you need to be thinking, if I'm in this relationship, then I'm heading towards marriage. And that scares some of you guys. I don't mean, okay, everybody I'm dating, we're going to get married, me and you. No. But you need to be that serious that I'm going to stop here and just get to know this person. I'm going to court them. And I'm going to treat others the way they want to be treated. I'm not going to leave someone trashed for somebody else. But I'm going to treat others how they need to be treated. My body's only designed for one person. I need to make sure that I protect that other person's body. And we don't even get into the area of protection. I mean, we go on and on about those things. 14 years of youth ministry, we've covered about all bases on that. But here he's got 2 things here. Starts with the relationship. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. It starts with your relationship with God. Continues with other. I hit on the girlfriend, boyfriend thing, the man and woman thing, but how we treat the people we're around. You know what? Whether you know Jesus Christ as your Savior and Lord or not, I don't think you can say any of the things I have brought up tonight are not truths that will not help a society. The golden rule, treating others the way you want to be treated, helps a society. it's interesting to me how God's truth makes it into mainstream. Now, and I've taught this for a year, but now it's okay to teach in the public school, and they even give material about abstinence. Guess what? God figured it out a long time ago. But now it's okay. Oh, instead of passing out condoms and we see that sex increases and diseases increase, we should maybe teach about abstinence. You see? All truth is God's truth. John 8:32, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Treat others the way you want to be treated. What's the key to relationships? Starting with Jesus Christ. Treating others the way you want to be treated. And we're to do that with all our heart, all our mind, all our soul, and all our strength. We're going to end with a clip here. This movie is awesome. I really like it. If you've seen Facing the Giants, the same people put it on. You may say it's cheesy, but it covers a lot of things. And I am convinced that you cannot have a right relationship with anybody else unless you have a right relationship with Jesus Christ. I think if you ask John, and I think if you ask the team here, if you want the bottom line, if you wanted to scratch down to the bottom line of why this place exists, it's to make disciples. They're not going to brainwash you. They're not going to take you in a room and water torture you, or what you need to use is a bag of soap because it doesn't leave any marks and smack you around with it. No, they're not going to do any of that. If you were to ask any of them, they would want you to start with a relationship with Jesus Christ. If you don't have that, that's what this clip's going to focus on. I encourage you to talk to me, talk to John, talk to the team, or someone you know that knows Jesus Christ. Get this, Christians. 89% of people that don't know Jesus Christ say they have one Christian friend. 79% said that they would love to have a conversation about Jesus if you don't smack them around. So people want that first relationship. But you know what I think I'm dealing with more? I think I'm dealing with some Christians here that don't want to do the second part. You've grayed the lines there. I hate the word gray area. God didn't give suggestions. He gave commandments. We don't do commandments to be saved. We do commandments because we love God and it shows whose we are. But in your relationships, whether it's with a guy, a boyfriend, girlfriend kind of thing, or whether it's with your teacher in the sense of the respect, or your parents and all those things, we are called to treat others the way we need to be treated. If you don't know Christ, I'm going to say this really boldly, you don't need to worry about the second part right now. You need to worry about the first. But if you do know Christ, some of you have said, well, there's a gray area, and it just feels right, so I might as well do it. Yeah, it does feel right. I'm going to tell you right now, sex is great. It's awesome. God designed it for one man, for one woman, for a lifetime. Is God's forgiveness there? Yes. Can people go on and enter into different things and good things? Yes. But that's God's ultimate design. I think some of you right now, I went to a conference with Henry Blackfeet, did Experiencing God, just me and Henry alone. No, me, Henry, and probably 1,000 other people. Okay, let's put it this way. This old guy here, talking about myself, we're always going to have to go another level, Christians. And the level of God, I feel I say yes to God a lot. But it got down to, Henry was saying, God didn't give suggestions, He gave commandments. There's two right there. And I decided that it doesn't matter what God tells me to do, guess what? My answer is going to be yes. So a question for all of you tonight, if God has called you to be a Christian, say yes to Him tonight. And the rest of you that know Christ that are somewhere along here and not treating others the way they need to be treated, why don't you say yes to Him tonight? Say yes to Him by saying, God, I'm wrong in this. Please forgive me. Say yes, God, give me a breakthrough and have Him show you and go to others to help show you what to do. Our relationships, the key is loving God, loving others, and then you can serve. Why don't you show that?
When I realized who I was and who He was, I realized my need for Him. I needed His forgiveness and salvation.
See, I don't understand. Why do I need His salvation? What am I going to be thrown into hell? For what? Because I got divorced?
No. Because you violated His standards.
What? Thou shalt not kill? Dad, I help people. I am a good person, according to you.
doesn't judge by your standards. He uses his.
And what are his?
Well, truth,
Okay.
love,
I'm honest.
faithfulness,
I care about people. I am those things.
sometimes. But have you loved God, the one who gives you life? His standards are so high, he considers hatred to be murder and lust to be adultery.
Dad, what about all the good I've done?
Son, saving someone from fire does not make you right with God. You've broken his commandments. And one day you'll answer to him for that. Caleb, if I were to ask you why you're so frustrated with Catherine, what would you say?
She's stubborn. She makes everything difficult for me. She's ungrateful. She's constantly griping about something.
Has she thanked you for anything you've done the last 20 days?
No! And you'd think after I wash the car, I change the oil, do the dishes, clean the house, that she would try to show me a little bit of gratitude.
Well, she doesn't. In fact, when I come home, she makes me feel like I'm an enemy. I'm not even welcome in my own home, Dad. That is what really ticks me off.
Dad, for the last 3 weeks, I have bent over backwards for her. I have tried to demonstrate that I still care about this relationship. I bought her flowers,
Which she threw away. I have taken her insults and her sarcasm, but last night was it.
I made dinner for her. I did everything I could to demonstrate that I care about her, to show value for her, and she spat in my face. She does not deserve this, Dad. I am not doing it anymore. How am I supposed to show love to somebody, owe